Hello everyone. So today at Tips and Tits number 9, we were going to talk about the pre-settled and settled status because Brexit has happened, the UK has left the European Union for a while now. We are still in the transition period, but it is recommended that you get your pre-settled or settled status in order before the end of the year. You do technically have time to do it until the 1st of July of 2021, but the government recommends that you get it sorted as soon as possible and by the end of the year. That's why we thought we'd give a little bit of a background of what pre-settled status is, what settled status is, what generally the EU settlement scheme entails, and how you can apply for it. This is a very basic introductory video. We will also at the end of the video give some tips of who can actually help you if you are in a situation, in a more complicated situation and need certain documents that you might not have at hand. So there is a lot of support out there, but we wanted to give a general overview of what this settlement is and what this scheme entails in the first place. So there are, as I've said, there are two different kinds of status. So you do not have to know in the beginning when you apply, you do not need to know which one you apply for. You just apply to the EU settlement scheme. You can do that on the government website. Most of it is online, so you can just fill out all the forms online, and then they will let you know if you are entitled to pre-settled status or to settled status. Generally, settled status will be given to EU citizens who have been living in the UK for 5 years in a row. Living means that you have spent at least 6 months per year, per every 12 months in the UK, and you have to be able to prove that. That if you have those 5 years of continuous residence, as it's called, then you can get the settled status, which means permanent residency, which means you don't have to worry about the government kicking you out at any point. You can leave the UK for as long as you want and come back. You just have permanent residency for the rest of your life, no matter if you spend it in the UK or if you take breaks of it. The pre-settled status is kind of an interim status if you have not lived in the UK for those 5 years in a row before the end of this year. So when you apply to the EU settlement scheme and either you cannot prove that you have been here for 5 years or longer, or you just haven't been here for 5 years or longer, then you will usually get the pre-settled status. It does give you the right to stay in the UK for 5 more years, so you can either get your documents in order in those 5 years, or you just need those 5 years to be able and eligible for settled status. You get for both of them, with pre-settled status and settled status, the government has promised officially that it won't change for EU students, so for EU for EU citizens, nothing will change. So everything that you are entitled to at the moment, you will be entitled to after Brexit as well, or after the transition period is over, if you have pre-settled or settled status. Now that isn't entirely correct, but in both cases, with pre-settled and with settled status, you will be able to work in the UK, including self-employed work. You will be able to use the NHS for free if you can at the moment. You'll be able to enroll in any kind of education or just continue studying, so that includes universities, but it also includes any other kind of education. You'll be able to access public funds, although with certain benefits you will not be able to access them with pre-settled status, but only with settled status. Or if you are able to prove that you have the right to reside, then you might be eligible for certain benefits. Some benefits, like child benefits, for example, you should be eligible with pre-settled status anyway. And you are also, with both pre-settled and settled status, you are able to travel in and out of the UK. So you can go visit your family and come back without having to apply for another visa or for another status or something like that. So that you should be able to do that also with pre-settled status. If you have moved to, no, can we go back? Thanks. If you have moved to the UK in a period where you will reach the 5 years at some point between the end of this year and the 30th of June of 2021, then you can choose to apply, after the end of this year and June of next year, and then directly apply for the settled status. And you don't have to go through the pre-settled status period.
Right. We do need to talk about the documents that you will need to provide in order to apply. However, I think we also need to cover who needs to apply for this scheme. And it is not only you citizens who are currently residing in the UK, it is also partners or family members of you citizens who are currently residing in the UK, as well as partners or family members of specifically Irish citizens currently in the UK. So you might think that this does not apply to you, but it will. If you're not a British citizen, it might be a good idea to go on the government's website and investigate whether you should actually apply for it. Now, let's see what sort of documents you will need. To begin with, you go on the government's website and provide in some form a valid identity card or passport from your country of origin, or a UK issued biometric residence permit if you have one. You don't necessarily have one. Depending on your country of origin, you will have different identity cards, passports, or documents. Again, it might be a good idea to go on the government's website and see what their directions are for these, because some of these you can supply digitally straight to the government. Others you might have to post through the mail. Another thing you will need is a digital photo of your face. And that's pretty much it to begin with. As I said, some of the documents can be submitted digitally, others can't. There is an app that works on Android phones or iPhones 7 or above. However, in our personal experience, not even every Android phone will work this app. And also remember that if you don't have an iPhone 7 or above, or not even a smartphone, it doesn't have to be your phone. You just need to have access to a phone that can download such an app. So your partner's phone, I don't know, your boss's phone, your friend's phone, if you have neighbors with a suitable phone, and if you have a good enough relationship with them to borrow their phone, please make use of that. Otherwise, it will have to be done through the post. So once that is out of the way and you have submitted these things, the government will ask you for a list of documents that prove how long you have been in the country. The easiest way to do that is your national insurance number, especially if your national insurance number shows that you have been in the country for more than 5 years. And if you feel happy to disclose your national insurance number to the government. If you don't have a national insurance number, or if you are worried about the possible issues that might arise because of that, other good things to use are council tax bills or annual bank statements, or P60 from your place of employment, letters, invoices, certificates from your school, university, college, basically place of study. These things will usually be taken as a proof of a significant amount of time that you have spent in the country. providing just one council tax bill covers the whole year of the council tax that you have paid. It will be the same for P60, depending on how long you have worked for a specific employer, if you have worked for a specific employer, assuming we're talking to sex workers in this webinar. The same applies to certificates or diplomas or degrees from your university. They might cover more than 1 year. However, if you don't have any of these, you may have to go for the little list that we have on the left. This on the right, sorry. This is not a full list. You will have a full list on the government's website. These documents will only cover a very short period of time. And using these will be difficult if you want to prove that you have been in the country for over 5 years. The government has 10 documents as the maximum that you can submit. But your monthly bank statement or any utility bill that you might have only covers a month out of a specific year. So providing these short-term documents might not be ideal. So where possible, try to find, if you still have them, any of the long-term documents from the list on the left. However, if the short-term documents are all that you have, see how many of them you can collect so that you cover as much of the time that you have spent in the UK as possible. It's not just those specific documents, it's little things like, mobile phone bills, not just utility bills, domestic bills like for home repairs or for your vet's services, or some insurance. You will also need to provide evidence of payment of these bills. It might be a card appointment from your GP or any other healthcare professional. It could be a letter from a government department. Obviously, if you have been homeless for the last 5 years in the UK, you might not have any correspondence. But if you have some proof of some authority or charity organization supporting you during your period of homelessness, that will count as your proof of being in the country. As a last resort, if you have the used travel ticket confirming that you entered the UK before the 31st of December this year, or a passport stamp confirming your entry at the UK border, that will count as at least you being in the country before the 31st of December this year, which means you will be eligible for at least the pre-settled status. However, the more time you can prove that you have been in the country up until the 31st of December, the less time you will have to do on your pre-settled status, and the sooner you will be able to apply for the settled status, which means access to benefits if you think that you might need them. So where possible, try to prove as long time as possible for your presence in the country. And the same will go for your children, if you have children. Children is anyone under 21 who is living or staying with you here in the UK. If they're old enough, they can make an application themselves in their own email address. However, even with the older children, you can still use your own email address for the applications for them. Make your own application first. Once you make an application, your application will be given a number. Use this number to start applications for each one of your children. You do not need to wait for the outcome of your own application to start applications for your children. Just use the number of your application to link all the applications for your children to your application. Hopefully, children will get automatically the status that you're given. This might, of course, be different because we're dealing with the government who can't predict things. If your children are over the age of 18, they will need to declare their criminal convictions, if they have any, in the UK or overseas. The same, by the way, goes for you. Some of the minor convictions or fines or spent convictions do not need to be disclosed. But especially convictions where you have spent some time in prison will need to be disclosed, and they might influence the outcome of your application. And even if you do have British citizenship or Irish citizenship, and therefore you don't need to do anything for yourself, please think of your children and your partners or any dependents that you have who might not think that they should make this application, but they really should.
Okay, so yeah, off the back of that, we've got a few things. Obviously, this webinar is aimed at sex workers, and there are some unique problems that sex workers specifically face when dealing with immigration laws. As my colleague was just saying, serious or repeated crimes or any kind of police offences that you have committed can make it really difficult to obtain either pre-settled or settled status. Obviously, many sex workers will have committed prostitution-related offences, soliciting or brothel keeping repeatedly. Obviously, that's their line of work. That's how they're getting money. So this has already led to deportations of EU citizens before Brexit. So we counted over 5,000 between June 2016 and June 2017. So this is already a big problem that the sex work community is facing. The other elements that come into play are the criminalisation of third parties. So because it is illegal in the UK to be running a brothel or an agency, it is therefore impossible to be legally employed by these agencies or brothels because they are criminalised. You cannot legally work for something that it is illegal, which also makes it very difficult if you're relying on documentation from your employer to prove that you have been resident in the UK. Another thing, many sex workers will not register as self-employed. This is because they fear being outed as a sex worker. This is something that a lot of people had to deal with at the start of the coronavirus pandemic because, yeah, there were benefits available for self-employed people that sex workers were left out of because we did not register as self-employed. But also there is a reasoning to it, you know, why give a cut of our earnings to the state that doesn't even provide us with basic labour rights and workplace protection? We're getting absolutely no benefits from that exchange. Yeah, and so yes, we need to address the fact that you do get reduced access to benefits if you have pre-settled status. So if you're struggling to get full settled status, and you have to settle with pre-settled, you're going to struggle again. Like my colleague said, child benefits are one of the exceptions, but if you need any other benefits, you're going to struggle to get access to those.
Right, now as promised, as you have probably already realized, we are not complete experts on the topic. Some of us may have gone through the process or helped friends go through the process, but there are a lot of different situations where like a lot of things come together and we are not, like we weren't able to put all of this into this video. This is why we found some organizations that can help you fill out the form. So the form to apply, generally applying to the EU settlement scheme, is completely free. And also all of the resources that, or like all of the organizations or helplines that we've put on this slide are also all free to contact. We have taken a lot of the information for this video from Citizens Advice. So we do recommend checking out the pages on Citizens Advice because they go a lot more into detail of what if. So like if you are in a situation that we haven't covered in this video, do have a look at Citizens Advice. There's also some good information from the English Collective of Prostitutes, very specifically to sex workers. There's also some like statements on how Brexit is affecting sex workers in particular, and maybe there are some, like maybe it is useful for your situation in particular. Then we would also recommend, especially if you are from an East European country, to check out the East European Resource Centre. They have a helpline, and they can help you fill out the form. And then all of the other organizations that are listed on this slide. We will also link all of those organizations and helplines in the description box so you can find them right away. It also sometimes makes sense to get in contact with your city council and also county councils. Some of them offer some form of support to fill out the form and apply for the EU settlement scheme. So do at least check out their website. Maybe there is some local support that you can access. If you have got support from any other organizations, we do encourage you to put these in the comments of this video, or also tweet to us so we can give that information to other sex workers. But yeah, you're not alone in this.
Awesome. And finally, of course, we are always here to provide support. We're here to signpost you to any organizations. If you're unsure about anything, our casework team are the best. We've just launched our new online live chat, which is available usually from Monday to Friday from 1 to 3. We do also have some bonus slots on Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings if you're unavailable Monday to Friday. Yeah, our team will be able to help you work out what it is you need. If you're at that stage, we can point you towards people who can help, or we can help ourselves. And that's always available to anyone. We are still running our £25 food voucher program. So if you're in need of food on the table as well, we can help there. Cracking. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.